A mansion filled with staircases that lead nowhere, doors that open into walls, and hallways designed unlike any other home in America. For more than a century, this extraordinary house has inspired stories of ghosts, curses, and restless spirits. Some believed its owner built room after room to escape the spirits of those killed by Winchester rifles. That legend became the foundation of the 2018 horror film Winchester. But how much of the movie was inspired by documented history, and how much was created for Hollywood? The real Sarah Winchester was not a fictional character. She was a wealthy widow whose remarkable home became one of America's greatest architectural mysteries. Over the decades, rumor slowly transformed her life into legend. Books, newspaper articles, television programs, and movies all added new layers to the story. But historians paint a far more complicated picture. Many of the mansion's strangest features are completely real. The ghost story surrounding them is where history becomes much less certain. So, who was Sarah Winchester, really? Why did she continue expanding her home for nearly 4 decades? Was she truly trying to escape angry spirits? Or simply living with grief in a way few people understood? This is the true story behind Winchester, where documented history meets enduring legend, and where separating fact from fiction reveals a mystery even more fascinating than the movie itself. Long before ghost stories surrounded her name, Sarah Lockwood Pardee was known as one of the most educated women of her generation. Born in 1839, she received an exceptional education, studying languages, literature, mathematics, and music at a time when such opportunities were uncommon for women. Friends remembered Sarah as intelligent, graceful, and deeply private.
Do you take this
In
woman to be your lawfully
1862,
wedded wife?
she married
I do.
William Wirt
I
Winchester,
take thee
heir to the
to have
Winchester
and to
Repeating
hold
Arms Company.
From this day forward.
The Winchester name had become synonymous with one of the most successful firearm manufacturers in the United States. To the outside world, Sarah and William appeared to have a promising future together. But in 1866, tragedy struck when their infant daughter, Annie, died only weeks after birth from an illness now identified as marasmus. The loss devastated the family and marked the beginning of a series of personal hardships. 15 years later, Sarah faced another heartbreaking loss when William died from tuberculosis in 1881. Within a short period, Sarah had lost both her only child and her husband. William's estate left Sarah with an inheritance estimated at $20 million, along with a substantial interest in the Winchester Company. Adjusted for modern values, her fortune would amount to hundreds of millions of dollars. Financial independence gave Sarah the freedom to begin again, but not necessarily to leave her grief behind. Seeking a fresh start, she traveled west to California. There, in the quiet Santa Clara Valley, she purchased a modest farmhouse that would eventually become one of the world's most recognizable homes. What began as an ordinary farmhouse would slowly evolve into the Winchester Mystery House. But the reasons behind its transformation remain one of history's most enduring debates. In 1886, Sarah Winchester purchased a modest 8-room farmhouse just outside San Jose, California. At first glance, there was nothing extraordinary about the property. But almost immediately, Sarah hired carpenters to begin expanding the home. New rooms, hallways, staircases, and towers were added over the following decades. By the early 20th century, the house had become one of the largest private residences in America. Although many people claim construction never stopped, historians note that work slowed or paused at various times due to practical circumstances. Sarah worked with skilled architects and craftsmen who continuously redesigned portions of the estate. Many of the mansion's unusual features were genuine, not Hollywood inventions. Visitors encountered staircases that stopped at ceilings, doors that opened into walls, and windows overlooking other rooms instead of the outdoors. Some design choices may have reflected ongoing renovations, architectural experimentation, or Sarah's personal preferences. Over time, these unusual details encourage visitors to search for supernatural explanations. Yet, documented historical records offer little evidence that Sarah herself publicly claimed the house was haunted. Instead, much of the mansion's supernatural reputation grew after her lifetime through newspaper stories, local folklore, and popular culture. The house was real. Its remarkable architecture was real. But the ghost story that eventually surrounded it would become a legend all its own. As the mansion continued to grow, so did the stories surrounding its mysterious owner. Neighbors noticed the constant renovations, but few understood why the house kept changing. By the late 19th century, spiritualism had become a popular movement in both America and Europe. Many people believed it was possible to communicate with the dead, especially after the loss of loved ones. Because Sarah had experienced profound personal tragedy, later writers connected her to these beliefs. One story claimed that a spiritual medium instructed Sarah to leave Connecticut and build continuously to appease restless spirits. It is an unforgettable story, but historians have found no contemporary evidence confirming that meeting ever took place. Most versions of the legend appeared years after Sarah Winchester had already become a public curiosity. As the stories spread, each retelling added new details that became increasingly difficult to verify. Before long, Sarah Winchester herself became almost inseparable from the ghost stories surrounding her home. Yet the historical Sarah Winchester rarely gave interviews and left behind very few personal explanations. That silence allowed speculation to fill the gaps. Today, most historians distinguish between Sarah Winchester's documented life and the folklore that grew around her. The house exists. Sarah Winchester existed. The unusual architecture is real. But claims that she built solely to satisfy angry spirits remain part of legend, not established historical fact. Hollywood would eventually transform those legends into a supernatural thriller. To understand what changed, we need to compare the movie with the historical record. Released in 2018, Winchester presents Sarah Winchester as a woman haunted by the spirits of those killed by Winchester rifles. In the film, the ghosts are portrayed as real and capable of influencing the living. Historical evidence tells a different story. Researchers agree that Sarah expanded the mansion for decades, but the exact reasons remain uncertain. Some historians believe she simply enjoyed architecture and continuous remodeling. Others suggest the constant renovations provided purpose after unimaginable personal loss. Whatever her reasons, Sarah rarely explained her decisions publicly. On the 5th of September 1922, Sarah Winchester died peacefully in her home at the age of 83. Construction stopped almost immediately. The unfinished rooms remained exactly where workers left them. Years later, the extraordinary house opened to visitors and became one of California's most famous historic landmarks. Today, millions visit to admire its architecture and explore the stories that surround it. Whether viewed as an architectural masterpiece, a symbol of grief, or the inspiration for countless ghost stories, the mansion continues to fascinate people around the world. The greatest mystery may not be whether ghosts ever lived here, but whether we can truly understand the woman who built it. Sometimes, history becomes more mysterious than fiction not because of what we know, but because of what was never recorded. The real Sarah Winchester left behind no confirmed ghost stories, only an extraordinary home, a remarkable life, and questions that historians continue to explore. If you enjoy uncovering the true stories behind movies inspired by real events, subscribe and join us for the next investigation.